It is time for another episode of Council Bluffs Today, presented by Waldstein Plumbing. I am Todd Studer, and speaking of Waldstein Plumbing, well, I'm getting the cart ahead of the horse here. High school football starting back up again this Friday, and games going to be going on all over town and across the region, and we thought we should probably take a look at some area teams and see what their schedule looks like and what some of the expectations are. And nobody better to talk about that than Travis Waldstein, our friend here with Waldstein Plumbing and also with AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. Travis is plugged in. He is a huge football fan and really supports the area teams. And all his kids went to Lewis Central. So when he talks about football, he's going to have the most knowledge about that, but he also has a pretty good understanding of everything else that's going on. And we decided that, let's just do a high school football preview. And we kind of incorporated the whole thing into one of his Circle of Trades episodes. So what I did is we are cross-promoting today. And this is a clip from the latest Circle of Trades episode where Travis and I are talking about high school football and what we expect to be going on in the region.
And they're talking about the top or the games of state. I mean, there's some huge top 10 class all across 3A, 4A, 5, even the smaller schools, but definitely, with there, I know Lewis Central and North Polk play Friday night. I think Glenwood plays Atlantic on Friday night. I mean, there's some, I don't remember who St. Albert's plays. I didn't see that one on the list, but, the thing is with St. Albert's, I think it'll be pretty good this year, but they got Woodbury Central in their district, who's rated the number one team in the state coming in, to the season. So, plus then, AL and TJ, I mean, they'll obviously be playing as well, but, on Friday. But yeah, I mean, if you're fixing for football, I know it's not NFL or college, but, I think there's probably a good chance I'm going to be sitting in the stands Friday night, probably either at Lewis Central or maybe St. It depends if I don't know who's at home. I haven't looked that close at the schedule yet, but I'll take a look at one of them, and I'm sure I'll be going at least watching for part of the game. So I do enjoy it. I love going to Iowa State, but I do enjoy the high school Friday nights. I have to admit, going out watching the local teams, local players, see how they're doing. It's just good to see that.
And you never know. You could be watching a future NFL player at the high school level. And if you see enough games, chances are you will at some point. Oh. And, and what you're talking about with St. Albert too, Donnie would be the first to say, because I've interviewed him, so I know he sounds like every other football coach, but he's right that Woodbury Central game
is huge.
That he wants that game. And it doesn't matter whether or not St. Albert is yet on that caliber or not, but he wants the players to see what that looks like.
Oh, yeah.
This
absolutely.
is what a number one team looks like. Here's your goal. And
they played Tri-Center Friday nights with that play. So,
okay. Yeah. Tri-Center's a couple of years off a state title. So I don't know where they're going to be at. I know that there was a coaching change right after that, and they didn't fare as well the following year. But, there's some kids on that team that know how to win too.
I'm kind of looking at their schedule, and you take a look at their first two games are on the road. They play Tri-Center, they play IK Manning, then they got Loma at home. And Loma is always solid, I mean, years are really good. Oakland Riverside, has been better the last few years. Tri-Center, like I said, starting off, but a lot of that coach staff for 2 years ago, I believe one of the assistants is the other Hook brother, Matt, I believe, is coaching at Lewis Central now too. So I mean, Lewis Central's guys make coaches and do football players on the team. I was telling Camrad that I think it's funny, but they got like I said, they get looking back at St. Albert's, but they got Westwoods was Sloan, Oakland Riverside, Akron Westfield, and Woodbury Central. And who knows, if both them teams come in that game 8-0, by that time St. Albert's will be ranked. I know last year when they played, the biggest thing is I mean, St. Albert got better, but on the offensive and defensive line over 4 quarters, Woodbury Central just had more beef on the offensive line. It wasn't a talent, it wasn't the skills. It was just more beef on the offensive line. But I know St. Albert's been working pretty hard on that. So, and I'm just going to type in Lewis Central football here while I'm looking.
Taking a look and see what where they're at opening week.
Oh yeah, 100%. So, yep. So, all right. So, yeah, it's on their way at North Polk on Friday night as well. So yeah, let me take a
That's a
look
tough road trip right out of the gate.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, they play North. I mean, here's the deal: there ain't a lot of teams that want to play Lewis Central. I mean, the last 5 years, and I know last year they agreed to play Sergeant Bluff and North Polk because basically, nobody wanted to play Lewis Central, and it's been a problem. They, as far as how 3A4, your districts are your districts, but your non-districts you play whoever you want. Well, it's kind of like college football. It's kind of like, well, Iowa's got to play Iowa State, and then you put a couple cupcakes in there. Indiana doesn't have to play Purdue because they play them in conference, so they play all cupcakes. You know what I'm saying? So, so when you look at that, that does make a huge difference as far as what they're doing. But looking at LC schedule to start off the year, they're going to be at North Polk. They're a year removed from a state title. Sergeant Bluff, oh great, my internet's fading on me this morning. It's fantastic. So, yeah, gotta love the internet. They play Sergeant Bluff at home, then they get Harlan at home, but then they play at Carroll. So they play at Carroll. They play at Glenwood, and I can tell you Glenwood, finally beat for the first time forever. And Glenwood's ranked too. I think Glenwood thinks they got the one kid that's going to Minnesota. Still don't know why, but whatever. Go row the boat. And then they got Boone at home, at Denison, ADM at home. ADM's always a good team. And then they play TJ the last game of the year. So so let's look up Council Bluffs, Thomas Jefferson. Since we're talking football here, so
Let's go ahead and do it. And look, TJ's got a new coach this year too,
yeah.
so it's and apparently they had really high numbers for turnout for wanting to go out for football. So TJ is one of those teams they can sneak up on you. If you overlook somebody and you're not ready to play.
Well, TJ didn't have a bad year last year from what I remembered. I mean, they weren't terrible. I mean, they start off, they play, they play Sioux City West at home. So they had a home game. That's definitely a winnable game for them. At Storm Lake, that'll be a winnable game for them. Then they go Sergeant Bluff, and then they got the state rivalry with AL, which, I mean, it says AL. Okay, so you're going to wear the white jerseys instead of the orange jerseys or black jerseys, whatever that is they wear. They go play Denison at home. They go to ADM. They play Boone at home. They go to at Glenwood, and then Lewis Central. I mean, not knowing a whole lot about it, his history and, level of competition. I mean, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, possibly 5 games. I mean, the Sioux City West, Storm Lake, AL, Denison, and probably Boone are games that are, I think, very doable. I don't see them hanging with Sergeant Bluff, ADM, Glenwood, or Lewis Central, but there's not a lot of teams in the state that are going to hang with them 4 teams. And I bet you if we looked at, I want to look at Council Bluffs, Abraham Lincoln, you're probably going to be close to the same boat. So we'll take a look at their schedule.
You're playing a lot of big schools there.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. They play a true 5A schedule where TJ plays a 4A schedule, which I that's good. So, yeah, so AL, they start out at Lamar's, and then, they get Sioux City North at home, and then they're at Denison. So, yeah, so they both play Denison, but of course, then the city game TJ. Johnston, that'll be a tough game. Ames, probably a tough game. They played Des Moines Roosevelt. That's probably a winnable game. Sioux City East, it finally started looking like Sioux City East again last year. So I got to believe that's probably going to be a tough game for them. Not impossible, but just be a tougher game for them. And then at Ankeny. So, but they're playing a 5A schedule too. So, here's the deal. You don't know until you play. I mean, the coaches can only do so much. The players got to play, and I think it's going to be, really interesting to see what all these teams. I mean, here everybody's 0-0 right now. So and then we're gonna look up Underwood, and then TJ or Trainer as well. So we'll just take a look at their schedules. So, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. This might be a game to go to. They beat them last year. Underwood starts off at Harlan.
Yeah.
Underwood beat Harlan last year. And from what I've understood, Harlan football from senior down to freshman, they only got 42 kids off of football this year.
Really?
That's not, yes, Harlan's numbers are down as far as football goes this year. Way down from what they've been.
Jason James, Yvette Purdue, and Jake Stander are JPS Realty Group, your friends in real estate, based in Council Bluffs and serving clients across Council Bluffs, Omaha, and beyond. They help buyers and sellers move forward with local knowledge and personal guidance from the first showing through closing. When it's time to find a home or sell the one you own, put the JPS team to work for you. Learn more at jps.heartlandproperties.com. When it's time for lunch, get away from the drive-thru and head to the Dock Bar and Grill in Council Bluffs. Whether you're hungry for a burger, sandwich, pizza, basket, salad, or just one of the daily specials, the Dock has plenty of choices and a comfortable place to enjoy a real meal. It's perfect for meeting friends, grabbing lunch with coworkers, or taking a well-earned break from the workday. Make the Dock your lunch destination. 401 Veterans Memorial Highway in Council Bluffs. Technology should work for you, not against you. At ThinkSpace IT, they provide expert IT solutions to keep your business running smoothly and securely. From cybersecurity and cloud services to network management and tech support, they simplify IT so you can focus on what matters most. Stay protected, stay connected, stay ahead. Visit ThinkSpaceIT.com.
So, like I said, but it's still Harlan. It's still Harlan. Then they play Interstate 35. And then they play Clarendon at home. Then they go to Tri Center. Then they get at Trainer. That's been kind of a big game the last 2 years with Trainer and Underwood playing each other. Missouri versus Missouri Valley at Shenandoah and versus Red Oak. I mean, their schedule is definitely loaded. What I would say on the front end with Harlan and Florinda, Tri Center, and Trainer, those are probably going to be their 4 big games. If you take a look at it, and Underwood, I think is going to be good again this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Same thing with Trainer. So yeah, that's kind of fun. Like I said, I haven't really looked at this a whole lot, so it's kind of exciting. Yeah. And see, they play Riverside, which Riverside already had a game. Of course, I think Riverside's one of them teams that might have had one of their teams cancel out of the season. So they play, they play Riverside home. Oh, then they get Van Meter. Now that'll be that you're going to find out. You're going to find how good you are versus Van Meter has been what state finals, state semifinals. I mean, you're going to find out how good you are versus Van Meter right there. Pella Christian, which is pretty good in the past. Then they got Shenandoah and Pella and Shenandoah on the road. Underwood at home for Trainer. They're at Tri Center, at Red Oak, and Missouri Valley. But yeah, I mean, week 1 you got to get team that's already played, and then week 2 you get to go play Van Meter, who's been like probably the most consistent high school sports team the last 15 years, 20 years. That's basically West Des Moines West or whatever you want to call it. So, and then we'll look at Glenwood football as well, since we're talking. So I know there's a few people down in Mills County that listen to this. So yeah, they start off at Atlantic to start the year, and that's a conference, and then they play Harlan. That's always been kind of LC's dominated Glenwood the last few years, but Harlan's always been Glenwood's Waterloo game. And they finally got him, I think, last year, finally. So I'll be curious to see what they do this year. They play Creston. Creston's always been a nice school. I mean, they have years where they get up there a little bit, but that's not necessarily an easy game. It's at Creston. Then they go to Sergeant Bluff. That's gonna be a tough game. I mean, Sergeant Bluff, I think, is they're gonna be good again this year. Then of course they get LC at home. That assuming that everything goes according to plan. I mean, I gotta believe Glenwood will probably be 4-1 or 5-0 coming into that game. Same thing with Lewis Central when they play. Then they get Denison, then they get ADM both on the road. They get TJ at home, and then they go to Boone on the road. So, realistically, if you're Glenwood, based off your schedule, based off your history, and with the talent you think you get coming back, I mean, you should finish at least 7-2. And I would say the same thing about LC and St. Albert's and probably Trainer and Underwood for the most 7-2, 6-3 at the worst if you are what you think you are, but that's why they play the games. So, you know, so, but
Yeah, the football's not round, and
no,
sometimes things take funny bounces.
yeah,
And sometimes you get a kid that he may not be hurt, but might just have the flu or something, and it's a much bigger deal at the high school level than it is at some of the higher levels.
well, you take Lynn LC last year, great example. I'm not making excuse for, but their starting quarterback that they played got hurt just before the season started, and he didn't come back to like game 6 or 7. And so they had to cut back the offense from what they're doing, and they lost a lot of close games. And they had a murderer's row schedule, which they chose it, and they didn't make excuses for it. They went played, and it is what it is, and. Like I said, if one or two players, you go back, watching 20 years of high school football. It's I remember back in the day, Alex Reed was a running back for Lewis Central back 15 years ago before he went to North Dakota. I think he teaches at Council Post Public now. Hell of a running back, but if I remember right, he got hurt a game or something, and LC did not look like the same team without him. And at the time when he went to North Dakota, that was a huge deal. That was like the biggest school that had ever, you know, um, that anybody had put out of Lewis Central. I mean, St. Albert's had some kids that went to Nebraska or Iowa or whatever else, but for LC that was a big deal. And but yeah, you lose one player like that, or you lose a Max Duggan or a Logan Jones, or I mean, you go through the list of names. I can give you all the LC names over the years that if you didn't have these players, what happens. So and you can probably do the A team. It's like, well, if so and so doesn't get hurt, I mean, AL the one year that cameras there, they were really good. And I think they lost their running back Ebertowski going into the play just for going to the playoffs. They were like 8-1. They lost Ebertowski and they played and they got rolled up in the playoffs because their main run attack, he was gone. He was hurt, couldn't play. So, but that's high school football. So
That's just, yeah, you're right. That's how it goes. We've had years. I know, talking a lot about Lewis Central just because that's, your kids went there. You live in the Lewis Central district. We've seen, well, think about it. The state championship years started
yeah,
2-2 both years, didn't they?
yeah, because
I think so.
the first time they won it because they lost to they lost to Harlan, and then we went over and lost to Indianola and looked like crap. I'll never forget that. And I remember, and I had somebody who named nameless, but his brother his brother's a teacher at St. Albert's. That after 2-2, I went on Facebook. I said, "Man, his state title or bust. That's not fair." And I'm like, when you have 5 kids in the top 30 of the Des Moines Register that play for you, and you got that kind of talent. Now, talent isn't going to necessarily win you ball games, but it should give you a hell of an advantage. And if you can't make that talent work, then shame on you. And of course, they did once they kind of got stuff ironed out. Then then they kind of took off and they dominated. Up till they played Xavier in the championship game. And of course, that's the game where the lights went out. But I mean, but even their other year, yeah, they went 2-2. And so playing that tough non-conference schedule early on, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it's kind of an iron sharpens iron. It's like wrestling, And listen, the best thing you do in the basketball court is put a wrestling mat on, as far as I'm concerned. But that's me. I mean, wrestling is where you do all these preseason tournaments. If you get your kid, if you get beat by the number one kid out of Kansas 3-2 in a preseason wrestling tournament, or even 14-2, whatever it is, it's going to give you an opportunity to get better versus if you're wrestling the same kid in practice every day and you're not improving. You want to improve, you want to get better, you want to, but that's
Well, along the same lines, though, and this goes back, I used to do radio up in Okoboji.
yes,
And so I was covering Okoboji and also Spirit Lake back then. And, back in, 2005 to 2012 or so, Okoboji was always the much better team. And then Spirit Lake went out, got an assistant coach from, oh, shoot, where was he? I forget what college he was at, but his name was Josh Beloit. And Josh came in and completely changed the culture. And suddenly, now this is a team not only competing, but they're winning state titles. And Spirit Lake was always lucky before then to win. A 2-win season was a success for them.
Yeah.
But Josh changed the culture there. Now, having said that, I interviewed him a lot. And I talked with him after a state championship run. And so the next season was coming up. And I said, what's it going to be like now going into some of these schools when you're the defending state champion and you are the top game on everybody's list? And he got a little irritated with it. And he said, we're not defending anything. He said, this is a brand new team every year. You can't say that the team from the previous year is defending anything because it's so new. You've got so many graduates, you've got so many kids coming up from the underclass that everything is different, and you got to figure out how to make a team gel every single year. And so that's how we can talk preseason about what may or may not happen with some of these schools, but ultimately, we don't know what's going on in the locker room. We don't know how well a team's coming together. Some meals feed the family. The right cut of meat makes them memorable. Rustic Cuts, Iowa's premier butcher shop, offers premium beef, pork, chicken, and specialty cuts, carefully selected and expertly prepared by their Council Bluffs team. Find the perfect steak for the grill. Stock your freezer with a meat box, or choose a gift card for someone who loves great food. Visit Rustic Cuts at 501 Veterans Memorial Highway, and then shop rusticcutsmeat.com. Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get things back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and that can oftentimes lead to mold, and you may be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. It's easy. You give Cindy Schmader a call with Service Master Restore by Schmader. Her phone number, 402-339-9911. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. Well, there you go. I think that this is a stolen analogy or a slogan, but what was it? Predictions sure to go wrong? I forget who it was that came up with that, but that's probably what this was all about. Listen, we just never know how these games are going to go or what kind of seasons teams are going to have. But we do wish the very best to all of our area teams, all of the players, and not just with football, all the other fall sports that are going on as well. I know that kids have gotten back into school, and I mean, there was volleyball matches happening the first day of school. So this is an exciting time. And you get the last of the dog days of summer out of the way, and then the cooler weather comes in. And I know that a buddy of mine a long time ago said, there's nothing like the smell and sounds of being at a high school football game on a Friday night. And yeah, you can smell those brats that are cooking on the grill that the boosters are doing down by the concession stand. And there's an energy with the student section. And I'm telling you, get on out, support your schools, support your towns, and support all of the young people that are taking place and taking part in all of these fall sports. Thanks again, Travis, for giving us your knowledge and wisdom on what to expect this high school football season. My name is Todd Studer. This is Council Bluffs Today, presented by Waldstein Plumbing, and I'll see you next time.